And so what we're talking about is specifically how to get personal injury patients with one of the it's actually, I'd probably call it the number one way to get personal injury patients, the richest source and the number one way to get personal injury patients. And it's not personal injury attorney sales, it's insurance adjuster sales. And you have to remember the first place that a patient goes when they're in an accident. Typically, they're going to go when they have an injury. They're going to typically do two things first. First, they're going to call their loved one, their spouse, significant other, say, "Honey, I was in an accident," blah blah blah. And then typically right after that, and it typically happens on the spot. I mean, people don't wait days and days to call their insurance adjuster. So they'll typically call the insurance adjuster really fast right after that accident. And so the insurance adjuster is a major gateway to a massive amount of personal injury patients. But here's the bad news. They're not looking for chiropractors. They're not looking for doctors, generally speaking. But there's definitely a way to get business from insurance adjusters if you understand and know what their needs are and you can solve some of their problems. In other words, help them with their job. And so that's what we're discussing, is exactly what is the formula and the psychology to help the insurance adjuster. And remember, this is probably the single greatest source of personal injury patients, and there's very little competition with personal injury attorneys. Not many people will talk to personal injury attorneys. You've got virtually like no competition when it comes to insurance adjusters. I guarantee you've never probably heard of a chiropractor targeting marketing to an insurance adjuster. For whatever reason, they think it's taboo or whatever. I don't know, or it's counterintuitive, or I don't know what. But so we'll go into the specifics of why that's a rich source. But you have to be familiar with the basic components of the marketing campaign, and you have to know how to establish need. In other words, solve their problem, number one. Number two is, what are their common obstacles? So you can handle their need, you can handle their obstacles, as well as affect trust. Now, you can do that with educational sales. You cannot do that with publicity or advertising. So publicity alone or advertising alone will not get business. And it just kind of goes back to the time. You're either going to spend money or time in marketing, one or the other. And most doctors would rather do neither, not spend money or time to get new business. That's usually what most people want. But the reality is you're going to spend one or the other, and you're limited in both. You're limited in time and you're limited in money. It doesn't matter how much money you make, you're limited. And you are definitely limited with time. So you always have to pick. You have to pick which are going to be the most effective for your budget, your money, and your time. And so that's some of the factors that we always pay attention to. And then there's a difference between advertising and sales relative to knowledge and skill. So not only is there an effort level, it takes a little bit of effort and time, but you have to have a skill level. And so once again, that eliminates a lot of chiropractors. They're not willing to put the time in. They're not willing to learn the skill and to actually know how to do educational sales with an insurance adjuster. So I always see these things as positives, not negatives, because I guess really mainly as I'm more proactive, and I'm not afraid to talk to an attorney or afraid to talk to a medical doctor or afraid to talk to a insurance adjuster. So if you're not afraid to talk to any of these people and you're willing to learn the basic components of a campaign and the outline of an educational sales category, there's an unbelievable amount of business. And that's how I was always able to create way more business than I physically could handle. That's how I had 2 full-time associates. Eventually, I didn't even practice. Opened 77 offices in 20 states, seeing over 40,000 new patients a year. Is because we did these things. We did these things that were the most effective, not the least effective, and we had the skill level, knowledge, and we actually did them. So that's the difference.